What happens when America's beloved home renovation queen faces off against one of television's most seasoned hosts in what started as a routine morning show appearance, but quickly spiraled into the most uncomfortable interview moment of the year? Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really triggered this explosive confrontation. The Today Show studio buzzed with its usual morning energy as Joanna Gaines settled into the iconic interview chair across from Hoda Kotb. What should have been a friendly promotional chat about Joanna's latest Magnolia ventures was about to become television gold, though not for the reasons anyone expected. "Good morning, Joanna. It's so wonderful to have you back with us," Hoda began, her trademark warm smile lighting up the studio. "I have to say, you look absolutely radiant today." "Thank you so much, Hoda. It's always a pleasure being here," Joanna replied, adjusting her signature cardigan and crossing her legs. Her usual composed demeanor seemed slightly more guarded than typical viewers might expect. "Now, let's talk about your incredible empire. Magnolia has become this massive brand, the network, the home goods, the real estate. Some critics are saying you've moved pretty far from those humble fixer-upper roots. How do you respond to people who say you've lost touch with everyday families?" Joanna's smile flickered for just a moment. "Well, Hoda, I think our mission has always been about helping families create beautiful spaces, regardless of budget. We've just been blessed to reach more people now. But let's be honest," Hoda leaned forward, her journalistic instincts clearly kicking in. "A throw pillow from your collection costs more than some families spend on groceries in a week. Doesn't that seem a bit out of touch with the values you built your brand on?" The temperature in the studio seemed to drop a degree. Joanna's hands clasped together tightly. "I think what we're doing is providing quality pieces that last. When you invest in something well-made, it serves your family for years." "Investment pieces," Hoda repeated, nodding slowly. "That's an interesting way to frame a $90 candle. But let me ask you this, and please don't take this the wrong way. But there have been some reports about working conditions at your Waco facilities. Employees talking about long hours, minimal breaks, pressure to maintain this perfect Magnolia image even behind the scenes. What's your response to these allegations?" Joanna's jaw tensed visibly. "Hoda, I'm not sure where you're getting this information, but we pride ourselves on creating a positive work environment. Our team members are like family to us." "I understand that's the public position," Hoda pressed, "but we've spoken to several former employees who paint a different picture. One person described feeling like they had to smile constantly, even when dealing with unreasonable customer demands, because, quote, that's the Magnolia way. Another talked about being written up for taking too long on bathroom breaks. Does this sound like the family environment you're describing?" "I think," Joanna said, her voice taking on a sharper edge, "that disgruntled employees sometimes have their own version of events that doesn't necessarily reflect reality." "So you're saying these people are lying? I'm saying that we can't control how every single person interprets their experience, but our company values speak for themselves." Hoda sensed blood in the water. "Your company values? Let's talk about those for a moment. Magnolia promotes this image of authentic family life, simple living, traditional values. But you're living in a multi-million-dollar farmhouse. Your children attend private schools. You have a staff that handles most of the daily tasks regular families deal with. Isn't there something fundamentally dishonest about selling this accessible lifestyle? When your actual life is anything but accessible to your audience?" Joanna's composure began to crack. "I think you're making some pretty big assumptions about my family's life, Hoda, am I? Because your own social media shows a lifestyle that costs more to maintain in a month than most of your viewers make. In a year, the organic groceries, the custom everything, the professional photographers capturing every moment. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly the simple life you're selling. We've been blessed, yes, but that doesn't mean we've forgotten where we came from." "Where you came from," Hoda mused. "Let's talk about that. Because there's been some interesting research into your family's background that suggests the humble beginnings story might be a little more crafted than authentic." Joanna's eyes flashed. "Excuse me, your father's business ventures, for instance. Public records show he was quite successful in the automotive industry long before you ever picked up a paintbrush. Your childhood home wasn't exactly the modest farmhouse your brand suggests, was it? I don't appreciate you investigating my family. It's not investigating. It's basic fact-checking. The narrative you've built about starting from nothing, about understanding the struggles of regular families, it's compelling television. It's not entirely accurate, is it? The studio fell silent except for the hum of cameras. Joanna stared at Hoda for a long moment, her carefully maintained media smile completely gone. "You know what, Hoda?" Joanna said, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "I came here to talk about our new furniture line, not to have my family's personal history dissected like we're on some investigative news program." Hoda didn't back down, but that's just it, isn't it? Your family's story is your product. You're not just selling furniture or paint colors, you're selling a lifestyle, a dream of what family life could be. When that story has inconsistencies, don't viewers deserve to know? What viewers deserve, Joanna shot back, is to be inspired, to create beautiful homes for their families, not to have every successful person torn down because they've worked hard and been fortunate. Worked hard? Absolutely. But fortunate in ways that your marketing doesn't exactly advertise. Let's talk about those early property investments, the ones that really launched your renovation business. Those weren't exactly bootstrap purchases, were they? There was significant family backing that somehow never makes it into the origin story. Joanna's hands were visibly trembling now. Every family helps each other. That doesn't diminish what Chip and I built together. Of course, families help each other. But most families don't have the resources to help their children buy multiple investment properties in their 20s. Most families are trying to figure out how to pay for college or keep the lights on. Don't you see how that changes the entire narrative you've built your empire on? I cannot believe this is the direction you're taking this interview. I'm taking it toward honesty, Hoda replied calmly, something your brand claims to value above everything else. So let's be honest. The couple that started with nothing, figuring it out as they went along, learning from mistakes. That's a beautiful story. But it's not your story, is it? That absolutely is our story. Is it? Because having a financial safety net, having family connections in real estate, having the luxury to take risks because failure won't mean losing everything, that's a completely different story. That's the story of people who were already privileged, having the opportunity to turn that privilege into a brand. Joanna stood up slightly in her chair. "I think you're being incredibly unfair right now. Am I? Or am I asking the questions that your millions of fans, the ones struggling to make ends meet while buying your products, might want answered? The single mothers working 2 jobs who spend their grocery money on Magnolia items because they believe in the dream. You're selling them? We have never encouraged anyone to spend beyond their means. Haven't you, though? Your entire brand is aspirational. It's about transforming spaces and lives. But for most people, achieving the Magnolia look requires spending money they don't have. And you know this, your marketing team knows this. The psychology of your brand depends on people believing that buying the right things will give them the life you appear to have. People make their own financial decisions. Of course they do. But they make those decisions based on information. And if the information they're getting is that you understand their struggles because you've lived them, but you actually haven't, isn't that manipulative? Joanna's voice rose. I have never manipulated anyone. We create beautiful products and share our journey. If people connect with that, it's because it's authentic. But that's exactly my point. Is it authentic? Can something be authentic when it's built on a foundation of omitted truths? When the struggle you overcome is really the struggle of deciding which business opportunity to pursue, rather than the struggle of wondering if you can afford to pursue any opportunity at all. You are twisting everything. I'm not twisting anything. I'm stating facts. Your family had resources. You had educational opportunities. You had financial backing. You had connections. These aren't bad things, Joanna, but they're also not the humble beginnings story that Magnolia has built its brand on. So what? Because my family worked hard and provided opportunities for me, I'm supposed to apologize for that. Not apologize, just be honest about it. Because right now, you're selling authenticity to people while presenting a version of your story that isn't complete. And that feels ... That feels what? Exploitative. The word hung in the air like a bomb. Joanna stared at Hoda in complete shock. Exploitative, Joanna repeated slowly. You think I'm exploiting people? I think you're selling them a dream that isn't available to them. I think you're encouraging them to buy into a lifestyle that requires resources they don't have. while presenting yourself as someone who understands their limitations. And yes, I think that's a form of exploitation. This is unbelievable. What's unbelievable is that no one has asked you these questions before now, that everyone has been so charmed by the farmhouse aesthetic and the family values messaging that they haven't looked at the business model underneath it all. The business model is creating products people love. The business model is creating desire for a lifestyle that most people can't afford, while positioning yourself as relatable to those same people. It's brilliant marketing. I'll give you that, but it's not honest marketing. Joanna's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like tears of rage than hurt. I cannot sit here and listen to this anymore. Then, let's talk about solutions. What if Magnolia acknowledged the privileges that made your success possible? What if you created truly affordable product lines? What if you stopped positioning yourself as every woman and started positioning yourself as someone who wants to help every woman? I am not going to sit here and be lectured about how to run my business by someone who has never built anything. The studio went dead silent. Even the crew seemed to stop breathing. Hoda's expression hardened instantly. The warm, welcoming host demeanor vanished, replaced by the steely resolve of a journalist who had just been personally attacked on live television. Someone who has never built anything, Hoda repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. Joanna, I've been in television for over 2 decades. I've built relationships with viewers, I've built trust, I've built a career on asking the questions that matter. What I haven't built is a brand that profits off people's insecurities while pretending to understand struggles I've never faced. That is not what we do, isn't it? Let me ask you something else then. Your latest marketing campaign, the one about making every house a home? Do you know what the average home price is in Waco now, compared to before Fixer Upper aired? Joanna shifted uncomfortably. I don't see how that's relevant. It's relevant because your brand has gentrified your own community. Families who have lived in Waco for generations can't afford to stay because tourists and investors drove up property values chasing the Magnolia dream. But I suppose that's just good business, right? We have brought jobs and tourism to Waco. You've brought wealth to Waco. Wealth that benefits people who already had resources while displacing people who didn't. The same pattern we see with your products, with your brand, with everything you touch. It sounds beautiful, it looks perfect, but it pushes out the people who can't afford perfection. Joanna's voice cracked. You are being so incredibly unfair right now. We employ hundreds of people. We've revitalized downtown. We've brought positive attention to our community. For the people who can afford to be part of your community, what about the families who got priced out? What about the local businesses that couldn't compete with Magnolia's marketing budget? What about the people who made Waco home long before it became a destination? Change is hard, but it's not always bad. Change that benefits you while harming others isn't progress, Joanna. It's just a prettier version of the same old story. Those with resources using those resources to gain more resources while everyone else pays the price. I did not come here to be attacked like this. You came here to promote your brand. I'm simply examining what that brand actually does in the world versus what it claims to do, and the gap between those two things is enormous. Joanna stood up from her chair. I think we're done here, are we? Because we haven't even talked about the labor practices at your manufacturing facilities. We haven't discussed the environmental impact of encouraging people to constantly redecorate instead of appreciating what they have. We haven't covered the psychological pressure your brand puts on mothers to create Pinterest-perfect homes while managing everything else in their lives. Sit down, Joanna, Hoda continued, her voice firm but not shouting. You built this brand on the premise that you're just like everyone else, that you understand their struggles, that you're here to help. If that's true, then help me understand how charging premium prices for basic items helps struggling families. Help me understand how promoting constant home improvement helps people find contentment with what they have. Joanna remained standing, her hands shaking. You have twisted every single thing I've said. You've taken every positive thing we've tried to build and made it sound ugly and calculated. I haven't twisted anything. I've asked direct questions about the real-world impact of your business decisions. If the answers make your brand sound ugly and calculated, maybe the problem isn't with my questions. The problem is with your agenda. My agenda is truth. My agenda is accountability. My agenda is making sure that people who profit from other people's dreams are honest about what they're really selling. What we're selling is hope. What you're selling is false hope. You're selling the idea that the right throw pillows can transform a life, that the right paint color can solve family problems, that the right aesthetic can create happiness. And you're selling it to people who are desperate enough to believe it. Joanna's voice broke completely. How dare you? How dare you sit there and minimize what we've built, what we've given people, the joy we've brought into homes across the country? I'm not minimizing joy, Joanna. I'm questioning whether that joy is worth the debt, the pressure, the impossible standards your brand creates. I'm questioning whether temporary happiness from buying things is worth the long-term financial stress it causes families. People are not stupid. They can make their own decisions. People are vulnerable. They're looking for solutions to problems that can't be solved by shopping. And your brand exploits that vulnerability by suggesting that the right purchases can create the perfect life you appear to have. Appear to have. This is my actual life. A life subsidized by the purchases of people who will never be able to afford the resources that make your lifestyle possible. A life built on selling authenticity while living in a way that's completely inauthentic to the experience of your customers. Joanna started walking toward the edge of the interview area. I will not sit here and be insulted anymore. Then don't sit. Stand up and explain how your business model helps people instead of exploiting them. Stand up and defend the ethics of what you've built instead of running away when someone asks hard questions. Joanna stopped and turned back, tears streaming down her face. You know what, Hoda? You're right. I'm running away because this isn't an interview, it's an ambush. And I don't have to subject myself to your accusations and your agenda and your obvious resentment of successful women. Resentment of successful women. Hoda's voice rose for the first time. I am a successful woman. I'm successful because I built my career on honesty, on asking questions that matter, on holding people accountable when they have influence over others' lives. That's not resentment. That's responsibility. But Joanna was already walking away, pulling off her microphone. As she headed toward the studio exit, Joanna Hoda called after her. Your audience deserves better than this. They deserve answers, not a walkout. Without turning around, Joanna raised her hand and said, "This interview is over." The cameras continued rolling as America's home renovation queen disappeared through the studio doors, leaving behind only the echo of uncomfortable truths and unanswered questions. Hoda sat in the silence for a moment, then looked directly into the camera. Well, folks, that's not how we expected this morning to go. And there you have it. One of the most explosive television moments in recent memory, where America's sweetheart showed a side of herself that millions of fans had never seen before. What do you think really triggered Joanna's dramatic exit? Was it the questions about her family's background, the accusations of exploitation, or something deeper? Hit that subscribe button if you want more behind-the-scenes stories like this. And let me know in the comments which moment from this interview shocked you the most.